Well, I think that right there, what you just said, is our entire industry. Half of our stores are stuck in 2008. Half of ours, I'm not even kidding by half. It probably, maybe more. Half are stuck in 2008. They're still doing Super Tuesday. Sorry if that offended half of you. You should be very offended.
Welcome to the Natural Products Marketer Podcast. I'm Tina.
And I'm Amanda, and we're here to make marketing easier for natural products businesses so you can reach more people and change more lives. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Natural Products Marketer Podcast. We are so excited to have Chase Ballard and Micah Corrigan back with us so soon. So thank you guys so much for joining us again.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Super popular podcast last time. We got a lot of feedback from it. So very excited to chat with you guys again.
Yeah. So if you didn't listen to part one, I highly encourage you to go back, even just pause this episode, go back and listen to part one, come back and listen to part two. And it'll just be a much richer conversation, but there's going to be lots of great insights for you today as well. So just to hop right in, guys, I know we talked a lot about becoming, the influencer in your community. Last time we talked a lot about MAP policy and how you guys implement that in your pricing strategy. And it made me think that I wanted to do a deep dive into pricing and promotional strategies today, because we run into this with almost every single client when we start working with them, because we're deep diving into their finances and, looking at what their store mix is and all of their inventory and what their margins are. And inevitably it comes up where we find that something's off with their pricing model. And so we're trying to figure out how to best navigate that conversation with them. So I'm selfishly really excited to just pick your brains today, because I think you have a lot of wisdom to share in this regard. So I want to kind of just paint a little bit of a picture of what we're seeing as the most common situations that we've run into when we've been working with stores. And maybe you have other things that you would add to it. But what we're finding the most common is stores are either pricing at full MSRP with just occasional sales. Maybe they have like one or two lines on sale at any given time. Option two is they price some lines at MAP, but they're marketing them as being on sale. And then they're on sale all the time. And then the vast majority of their products are still at full MSRP, as well as occasional sales, line drives, things of that nature, but they're still only getting close to MAP at that point. And then the third situation we're running into is brands or stores that are pricing at MAP almost all the time. However, they don't do extra promotions on top of that. So I'd love to kind of just throw all of that out there and get your thoughts and feedback on what, pros and cons are of those different strategies. If you would do something completely different, and kind of how you think through your pricing strategy. I'll start with you, Micah.
Yeah. So I think that pricing things at full MSRP is just a bad practice. As a retailer, when, I'll visit other stores, I'll see products that are sold at full MSRP. And what it does, in my opinion, is that it just reinforces this idea to customers that shopping in stores is more expensive than Amazon. And so it hurts me as a retailer when other fellow retailers are pricing it at full MSRP. So we're trying to kind of break that habit of, shopping on Amazon. There's this idea that, Amazon is always going to be cheaper, and it's really not. But if we continue pricing things at full MSRP, then that's, becoming a reality for customers. So I want to break that habit. And so, we price everything at MAP at our stores. And then from there, we negotiate discounts and promotions. And then, we have other ways to promote further than that. But for us, we're pricing everything at MSRP. When a brand has an MSRP price, but they're selling it at MAP, MAP is the new MSRP. MSRP really doesn't mean anything. It's just a made up number. I'll give you an example. I was purchasing a dishwasher a little bit ago. And I looked online and everything was the same price. And so in our industry, we're really focused on MAP, but in other industries, it's called a UPP, a universal price point. So if you ever bought a TV or a dishwasher, an appliance, a lot of those are the same prices. And then from there, they have other ways to promote it. Like you buy the mattress and then you get the bed frame, for free, or, the manufacturer gives, an added incentive from there. But yeah, I'm really focused on selling everything at MAP, also known as a UPP.
Yeah. Chase, what would you add to that?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything Micah said. I don't win any friends with saying this, but I think honestly, if you're selling an MSRP, you need to do a lot of work, because I think you're pretty much, I think you're out of business if you sell MSRP, because you're going either I'm going to move into town or someone like me is going to move into town and put you out of business, or Amazon's just going to slowly kill you. And then you also make the industry look bad, like Micah said, of where now people think always shopping in a store is this bad pricing. So it's really get with the program. I mean, the battle of MAP was won. Most brands, if you are a halfway decent buyer and can talk to brands and buy on promotion and things like that, you can still make 40, 50, 55% on a lot of these brands and sell at MAP every day. And that's a good margin. The days of 70% margin, 65%, that doesn't exist. And it may exist for you, but you're probably not moving volume and you're probably not making money. And the last we checked, the thing we say a lot here is we don't take percent to the bank. You take money to the bank. So it's how much are you selling? It's okay, people need to start looking at how much money they need to operate, not what margin they need to operate. So yeah, I think just kind of getting back to retail of buy something and turn it and sell it, and have fun doing it. The other thing I would say though is, the thought escaped me, but, when it comes to being on sale. So, I price at MAP every day on everything I have, and I think everybody should. And then we run promotions on top of MAP. And, we have to talk to vendors and explain what we're doing. And usually when we tell them that we're pricing it at MAP every day and we want to do something extra, they're pretty willing to go along with us. If we don't communicate that, then yeah, they're like, well, I don't know if I can do that. But once they find out we're pricing it at MAP and we need to compete with Amazon, they're pretty willing to work with us. And the thing about saying it's on sale and it's MAP price, though, that, the whole crux of this industry, the most important thing in this entire industry when it comes to customers is getting your customers to trust you. I'm going to start calling them trustomers.
It's a new word, Chase.
Made it up on the fly. Trust. But that's real. But the goal is to get people to trust you with their health. But really, it's just get them to trust you. So if you're sitting here saying, hey, it's on sale, look at this sale, 30% off. And then that's Amazon's everyday price. That's not really a sale. I see what you did there. And then the next time, here's the problem. When you do actually run a sale and you hopefully start pricing at MAP every day and you actually do have a cool sale on top of MAP, maybe they don't believe you. Or, so trust is a very important thing, and you can lose trust very quickly with customers, and that should be your most sacred thing as your customer.
Did it again.
It's a thing now.
Your customers' trust, but that should be your most important asset, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to add to Chase's point. We call it the Amazon suggested retail price. That's the MAP, Amazon suggested retail price. So, that should just be the EDLP. That should just be the everyday price. How you market, some retailers, they want to take the made up number and take 20% off. I think that's fine. It just shows, value, like an everyday value, of course. And that's what we do. But then on top of that, customers, at the end of the day, customers, they just have their phone, they have their apps, and they're looking, it takes them 1 second it's not like the 80s or the 90s where you had to like drive, 20 minutes to the next store and 30 minutes to the next store and then price compare and then call and, what happened. In a matter of seconds, they can shop, 10 retailers online, and they should all be seeing the same price point. And then from there, however that e-tailer or that retailer provides extra value, that is going to be the relationship in terms of like promotions and price. That's important. So like for us, we rely pretty heavily on our rewards program. And that's how we, give, besides running promotions specifically in store, we really rely on our rewards program to add that added value. So like at our customers, they get 1% cash back on everything they buy. And then they can use that 1% cash back towards anything on the next purchase. And then we'll do like added extra deals, 10% cash back, 15%, 20, 25, 30. And that really adds up. I mean, you sell a product, a lot of times they can accrue, $5 or $10 right in that purchase. And then that also helps them come back into the store, and then they can use that towards the next purchase. And that kind of keeps the money kind of revolving in the same system. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. For any store that has the capability to do a loyalty rewards program, I think that's the home run of home runs. I guess that would be a grand slam, but that is that's the way to go. I mean, you get that repeat customer, they have to come back and spend the money at your store. I know, that is the way to do it. And especially if you can leverage that into your e-commerce too, yes, because then now you have their e-commerce shopping. They're not going to want to buy anything on Amazon, even if, because we have that problem. We don't have a loyalty program, and we don't even have an e-commerce where I'm at here. And, we'll talk to people because everybody shops on Amazon. Everybody uses Amazon, or most people do. And, people be like, oh yeah, I just picked up some of those on Amazon. They're working great though. Thanks for recommending them. Well, without having that loyalty program or those the rewards, we can't, we can kind of say, oh, hey, make sure you can keep supporting us type stuff. But really, when you have the reward points or the cash back, you can really, it just makes sense. So yeah, that's I think a really successful strategy.
Yeah, like when a customer is trying to decide, what's the difference, right? They have it, they have it at $10 at the retailer. They have it at $10 on Amazon. They have it at $10 on a large other e-tailer. What's the difference? Well, now I can get it same day at that store right now. I don't have to, feel bad that I could save an extra 10% or 20% on Amazon. So that's a win. You already have that physical location benefit. And then the second benefit, is I was just doing this like a little bit ago too. I was comparing, a product between two e-tailers, and one of the e-tailers had a better rewards program and fostered loyalty. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to invest in this product, and I'm going to keep purchasing that product, well, I mean, that is like a no-brainer, I can accrue rewards, every time I purchase this. So, I think that's definitely like, people should definitely look into that if they don't already have a loyalty program, to start investing in one like that.
Well, 100%. And what's cool is, I've never done rewards that high, but that's what's cool is, a 20% off sale, it just doesn't ring that well. But you say 20% cash back, it's like, holy, what? It's like, excuse me? That just sounds insane. And that's really what you need to do as a retailer, is get your customers to stop and their jaw should drop and be like, are you kidding me? Really? So yeah, that ring has a really good ring to it. And I mean, at a previous retailer I was at, we had a program like that, and it was funny. You'd have customers that just wanted to save their money. And they're like, no, I'm saving it up. I'm going to come in here and buy the whole store. I'm going to save it up. And there'd be people with $600. And it's like, I mean, okay, keep doing that. That's fine.
Well, that's another thing that's kind of important about that, is at the checkout, training your people at the checkout to have that conversation. Do you want to use your rewards right now? You've got this much money banked. So I've seen some retailers do that very well. And I've been in other retailers where it printed out on the receipt, but there was no conversation that happened. No one reminded me that I just earned more rewards. No one was thanking me for shopping. That's a whole point of the experience where you can make your customers you can make them into trustomers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Customers. I love it.
We're going to turn that into
It's like it's a natural progression. Like we had one customer who like swore up and down he's never joining a rewards program. He doesn't want to do it. And it took about 2 years or 3 years for customers in front of him in line. $10 off, $15 off, $20 off, $5 off. And it wore him down so much. He's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Like, he was so tired of seeing everyone save so much money in front of him. And there's ethics. Like we don't sell our customer data, obviously. We want to keep that within, our ecosystem, but it just kind of keeps the dollars flowing inside our business, which has been very helpful.
Yeah. Key for trust is to have a conversation about how you're using people's data. And some people aren't asking immediately, but it's nice when they go to look at the loyalty program that they can say, oh, wait, they're not selling this to anyone.
So I want to ask, stores listening to this and maybe they fall in that MSRP camp and that's their comfort zone. The thought of reducing their prices, 20% to be at MAP every day scares the crap out of them. What advice would you give to a store like that, here's what you're saying, like you guys are two really successful retailers doing this every single day. And they, maybe only do MAP pricing a few times a year per line. What does that transition look like? How do you do that in a way that isn't so terrifying?
Well, first of all, I want to add that it's slowly going to erode the trust. Like, you're selling to that customer, but that customer has a son or a daughter, and that son or daughter is online. And over time, that child is going to say, hey, mommy, hey, daddy, you can save $10, $20. How many times are you buying this supplement? 12 times a year. I mean, you could save $100 right there, $120 right there. And then you multiply that by, 2 protocols, 3 other protocols, 4 other protocols, 6, brands. I mean, it's just a ton of savings. And slowly people are starting to calculate that. I'm like, why am I spending this much money? It's the same product. And there's that's another conversation if it's actually the same product. But, let's just say for the sake of this, that it is the same product. Then that's going to slowly, create a bad taste in that person's mouth because they're going to be thinking, oh, like what else are they doing to me? How else do am I getting like cheated? So I think that trust is going to slowly erode. But I would just start slow. You could just do, I would first find your partner brands. So there's going to be some brands that like you can't do it and you have to decide if it's worth it to carry those brands. And there's going to be many brands like Chase brought up that if you talk to them and you say, hey, I want to price it at a competitive price every day, most partner brands are going to be willing to play some kind of ball with you. I think the brands are just tired of like people padding their margins with like 60, 70, 80%, and it's not good for the whole industry like that. But I would start slow. I'd find the brands that can do it. I'd find the brands that, that are partner brands, and I would slowly start making those a priority and ordering up on those, giving those more shelf space, promoting those. You don't need to have, 70 varieties of vitamin C. You can slowly start whittling that down to priority or to partner brands, and then making sure those partner brands can give you the margins at the MAP price.
So let's talk about that for a minute, Micah, and Chase, we can come back to you if you wanted to chime in on that. But I hear a lot of times like focus. So you're talking about partner brands. Focus is helpful, even in the amount of choice that you're giving the customer. But what is the right amount? Because we hear things like, okay, well, some people aren't going to try a protein powder unless it's, a certain dollar amount or less. So what are those price points? Are we looking for something in high, medium, low range? Are we looking for 14 kind of SKUs? Like what does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. I think the high, medium, low is a good strategy. I think that you're already a physical retailer. I would lean more into the higher end. That's just my personal opinion, or at least that, works with our market. People can buy the crappiest products that they want online already. You're there to solve the needs of the customer, make sure you're providing high-end quality service, high-end quality products. I would go with the higher end, insert maybe some like middle brands that, are there for price sensitive customers, of course. But I would lean already into the higher end because our industry, most of our retailers are very, niche, right? We're not in the mass market. The mass market does a great job at selling mass market products, and mass market products are really great at low potencies, fewer servings, lesser quality ingredients. They're focused on getting that price point. And I think if you compete directly in that lane, it's not a winning strategy, in my opinion. I think the lane is going to be more in the unique boutique therapeutic lane.
Yeah, Chase, I feel like you were about to say something when he was talking about your partner brands.
Oh, I don't remember what I was going to say. I did have it's funny. I had a funny story that came up the other day of talking about these brands and negotiating with them with partner brands. And it was, I was asking for a deeper discount to do something crazy. I forget what it was, but it was funny. It cracked me up because they said, I think it got up to their regional or their U.S. sales or whatever, the bigger dog. And they're like, oh, it's Chase? Well, yeah, we know he's going to pass on the price. Just do it, because there's so many stores that don't pass on the price, and we're tired of dealing with them. And it's just like, oh, well, thank you, other retailers, for helping me get a better deal. So, but yeah, that was just a funny story that apparently there's a lot of retailers that aren't passing on these deals. And it's just, I mean, that's where, again, when we talk about negotiating with these partner brands, most of them are just desperate for someone to actually execute a promotion and pass it on. Like, that's really all they're wanting, it sounds like. Like, it's like they're not asking for a ton. It's like, you're just going to follow through on the deal. That's great. So yeah, I didn't really have much to add other than that, though.
Well, that's a perfect segue into promotions. Tell us a little bit more, like, what's your strategy around that? When do you start doing them? How do you make the choice of who, how often, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Really, I mean, typically brands, a typical brand is you get an everyday price, or you should negotiate for an everyday price where you can make money at MAP. For example, depending on the brand, you should be making anywhere between 35% margin up to 50% margin at MAP, depending on, volume, relationship, and types of products. But really then from there, most brands are going to run a line drive on top of their everyday discount a few times a year, or, you can negotiate certain things, but, just execute your promotions around that. And, I'm notorious. I don't know if I'm notorious. I'd say other people do it too, but I don't like falling into promotional calendars. It's like, I kind of use those as a guideline. And then I just kind of say, well, like, okay, well, don't hold me accountable to any of that, but, let's work together and let's do my custom, this month I want to do this month I want to do this. And it works out pretty well. And I don't know, for promotions, I don't let brands really dictate what they want to do for promotions. I kind of say, here's what I want to do, because this is what excites me. It kind of goes back to what I was saying the last podcast of, like, you need to be the owner. Like, if it doesn't excite you, don't do it. Like, thank goodness so many of these brands are going away from, they used to do this a lot. And I think most of them are stopping finally, I think. But this whole, like, oh, well, this month we're having our B vitamins on sale, and next month it's our vitamin D, and then next month it's like, just stop. Like, just do everything or don't do anything. And I think we're finally kind of getting back to, it's just a pure line drive instead of like categories and subcategories and stuff like that. But I don't even know why I got on that point. But yeah, just make sure, dictate to the brands what you are excited about, what you want to do, and execute that. And I give a lot of the brands ideas of like, I tell them like, listen, come up with the ideas. Here's the margin I need to hit. But as long as I hit this margin, sometimes on a promotion, we're doing a margin of like 20%, 25% net margin. Like, but you know what? Like, if we didn't do that promotion and we sold it at 40% margin, maybe we bring in $500 in sales on that item or that brand that month. And I mean, $500 in margin that month. Doing that promotion, we may bring in 3,000. Stop thinking about percent of margin and think about dollars. Like, what's exciting? What are people going to be excited about? And just do that. I don't know.
Well, and I think that that's an interesting point because I know we've talked about this on previous episodes as it relates to co-op. And I think the concept is the same. If you are going to a brand and you're like, hey, I have this idea around this marketing activity or this promotion or both together, what do we need to do to make that happen? Like, they're going to be super excited to work with you. If you're just like, okay, what can I get from you? They're not going to be as excited to work with you. But if you are taking the initiative and coming up with these ideas and thinking outside of the box, they're going to be way more likely to say yes to even the craziest of ideas. And they're going to share that with other customers too, because, that's, again, the beauty of this industry is, hey, Chase is doing this thing down in Florida. Would you want to try that in your store, Micah? Like, that's, that worked really, really well. So it can inspire other retailers to get ideas and then kind of just set off this domino effect of success for everybody.
Well, we started doing a thing about 2 or 3 years ago. It was this crazy idea. It started with Ancient Nutrition, I believe. It was buy one, get one free at MAP price. And we were like, wait, can this actually work? And, we put pen to paper and it kind of worked out. And we started doing that. They actually took that nationwide to a bunch of select retailers and copied that program. So, yeah, they took this program to other retailers and they started launching it there. They actually got their product higher up in spins, and they called me and thanked me about that. But anyways, what we started doing from there is we tried it with some other brands, and we're like, okay, hey, this is kind of working. Here's how we're doing it. Here's kind of the magic strings we're pulling. And then we started doing it with two or three other brands. And now we've got it kind of so streamlined to where when I meet with a brand, I'd say, basically, here's our package tiers to where if, we sell at MAP every day, so I have to have this margin, or you're not coming in the store. And then the second one is like, all right, and then we do buy one, get one half off, at MAP, and we need this margin to do that. Your lift's going to be about 3 to 5x. They're like, okay, that's cool. And then it's like, all right, and then we have our BOGO free. Now that's where we get crazy, and your lift's going to be about 25x to 50x, depending on the product. And that's where they're like, holy crap, what? Like 50x? They're like, well, maybe, but 20x is usually pretty much guaranteed. And so they now want to work hard to get to that. So I kind of give them the parameters and say, here's the game we're playing. Here's the tools you need to play in this game. And then they work hard to come up with ideas to do that. So you kind of put them to work and say, here's the parameters, like, have fun. And that's worked really well. And so now we're on year 2 or 3 of that. And I used to have to work and scrap and claw for to get those BOGO frees going. Now they just kind of fall in my lap because the brands understand where I need to be and kind of understand the rules. So.
Okay. You said a lot of numbers there, and I just want to talk about them again. Because they're big. Like, you're talking about big numbers. And the thing I was thinking about when you were talking about promotions and doing like really big deals is you're trying to buy new buyers. Like, you're trying to move people into the category who haven't tried it before. Yes, people that are there are enjoying some benefit of it too, but you're not necessarily doing that for them. So you're trying to buy new people. So my question is, if you get to that 20x with a BOGO, how long does that last? Does it stay at 20x? Or is it, you're here, it lifts to 20 and then it drops back down, but not lower? What does that look like?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, there's repercussions to that. And, some of our customers have gotten wise to, just brand switching and brand hopping to where, say we have Green Vibrance BOGO free, and then we have Ancient Nutrition's Greens BOGO free, and then maybe another Greens BOGO free. If they'll just kind of migrate to whichever Greens is BOGO free. So there are dangers in some of that. And honestly, I don't even think most retailers need to do the BOGO free type stuff, because I think it's a little too aggressive for most retailers, because I'm not, if people haven't listened to the first one, my company, we're not a health food store. We are a grocery store with some health products, but we have a wellness set. Like, we almost have like a mini health food store wellness set in our stores. And so we don't really have our own separate social channel. We don't have our own separate media team and marketing access. So we really are blessed with having a lot of people. Like, we have about 3,000 to 5,000 feet through our store today. So we kind of have to grab them with, hey, look at this crazy deal. Like, that's kind of our best way to kind of get sales, is to have these mind-blowing deals. If you're already having a good customer base and people are coming to you for wanting those therapeutic things and wanting to hear you, I still think you should run good promotions. I don't know if you have to do something as crazy as a BOGO free, or I think you should still play with it every once in a while. But I forgot exactly what you're asking, but there are dangers, and you still see a lift because you're buying customers, and that's where the brands are excited about that. I mean, yeah, you see a lift, but it's not 20x in perpetuity. No, it goes back down. I don't have an exact on where it goes back down to, but it definitely does help buy that customer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably building your base. It's not 20x, but it's building on top of what you had before, and then the next time you climb, it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
So you were talking about marketing with that. So that's interesting. You're probably in-store signage, that kind of thing, because you're saying you don't have access to like do particular promos on social media or through email with where you are right now. But I was just thinking about, there is that chance, and I'm glad you talked about the brand switching, a little bit of cannibalism of your own people moving from one thing to another. And I would caution people to be very careful, especially if it's one of the medium tier brands that you're talking about, Micah. When you start running promos on that, I like to segment out people who are on those premium brands already. So if they've been buying premium brand X for a protein powder, I'm not going to send them the email promo around the mid-tier or lower tier brand promo that's running, because I don't want them to switch. So we're careful with that. But I was going to ask if there's any other marketing that you guys do, Chase. It sounds like maybe not, but you're just trying to catch eyeballs as they're walking by.
Yeah, no, and before I segue into that, I will say we are very selective on the types of products we will do BOGO free on, because just any product doesn't really work. I mean, I've turned down brands now, and I may still do it, but I tell them it's not going to be as successful. But typically, those are very successful on your brands that you can switch to and have the same effect, like greens, proteins, collagens. Stuff to where it's maybe a flavor preference, or there's a little bit of uniqueness, but okay, well, this one's 10 types and this one's 3 and this one's 5, and it's like, okay, but it's still pretty much the same. When you get into your like Terry Naturally, well, I take Terry, or I take Life Seasons, or I take, like, having people jump from product to product like that, people aren't as willing to do that. They know that specific formula works for them, and I think as retailers in this space, you don't want to be incentivizing that product flop on those type of things. Like, again, our whole goal should be getting people to trust us with their health and helping repair their health. Now, obviously, we have to, we're retailers also, so we have to make money and sell and do stuff in between those things. But the root of it all is getting people on kind of a protocol that works for them. So that's where things that do succeed really well in promotions that are bigger are those more, I call them kind of pantry staples. Wow, my southern accent flew in there. But some pantry staples. But some pantry staples like your greens, your proteins, your collagen, MCT oil, things like that are like, okay, these are staples, and you can kind of trade brands pretty easily for the most part. Sorry for my brands that don't think you can trade brands easily in that. Forgive me. As far as other marketing things we do a lot of in-store signage. Yeah, that's the biggest thing we do. we lean a lot into like promoting local, promoting top sellers, staff favorites, things like that, and things you can do on the shelf. Like just because you don't have a great marketing team or social media or website, I think you should get one of those and get that going if you have access to it. But you can do a lot of things in store with proper signage as well.
As long as you have the traffic, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
And then one of the things we also include is we use Save Naturally. So that's going to have like the little sticker, you put it on the shelf, and then that, that purchase is subsidized directly from the product manufacturer, from the brand itself. And then that retailer gets reimbursed automatically every 2 weeks. So that's been working really well for us. It's a very safe, like Great Naturally runs on it as well. So Great Naturally knows that, we can subsidize that product directly on the shelf, every day for that campaign. And we know that that retailer is going to get reimbursed instead of, all the other ways that our industry is currently doing it right now with paper coupons. But that's a great way that we, partner. And then also, we rely heavily on like the infra flyers. So that's what we do. We add on top of that. We add the rewards program. And then we'll do like in-store, like, maybe like seasonal things or like other special things where it's definitely like a MAP violation. So we don't do that online, but that's more of an in-store specific promotion, like a BOGO or, like a really, buy one, get one 50% off. We don't do that online just because that's going to violate, our partner brands MAPs. But, there's tons of those types of things that we do. And then with, shelf talkers, and then with signage. It's really important.
So Micah, I'd love to just elaborate on that a little bit further, because it sounds like your store, obviously you have your unique boutique therapeutic kind of mantra that you live by. I think there are other stores that probably are very similar to you, and that they're like, we're super we have a very consultative approach. We carry these high-end lines that maybe they don't offer these great discounts. So like, why should we discount? So how can you, is there a fine line between having these more premium brands and discounting? Like, does it cheapen the brand, or does it just, make the customer happy?
Again, it kind of goes back to like the erosion of trust. I don't want to like oversell a price or a product for a customer. I just don't want to do that. I think the onus is on the brand too. Like just like from the last podcast, right? Just make sure you're selling products that like don't make you look bad, right? Just make sure that you're not selling brands that are like, doing, 50% off, 60% off MAP violations behind your back, D2C. Like, don't allow that. And then having accepted that, then, work with your brands, with, like the premium brands when you're, I guess what your point is like with the margins, right? Just make sure that that margin is healthy enough for you to afford high quality service and high quality staff that can, help your customers. That's like the main thing. It's very difficult to have high quality service and staff and, sell everything at a very cheap mass market product and a mass market margin. Like that doesn't really work. So I think finding those premium quality products that you can make a healthy margin at the MAP every single day, and then from there you can negotiate promotions. I would look at it that way. And we ended the last podcast with like there's 4 like games that we have in this industry, right? There's the EDLP game, which, and I think this is kind of how Chase is also looking at the different tiers, right? You have the EDLP game, you have the line drive game, you have the volume game, and then you have the random discount games or the the seasonal. And those are my least favorite. I was talking with a brand about that, and I was like, when is your ashwagandha going to be on sale next? And they had no idea. They said maybe Q4, could be Q3. We're not sure yet. And so as a retailer, I'm trying to allocate my funds for the entire year. I'm trying to figure that out. I have a budget. I don't know when I'm going to buy it next. So those types of brands, like where I can't figure out my margins, it's always like a guess. We really steer away from those brands. And then the EDLP is the golden goose. Many brands, they they can't afford to do an EDLP 50 margin. Maybe they do 45, maybe 40, maybe 35, right? There's different types, maybe 30, right? There's different types of tiers like that. And then there's two other ones, the volume and then the line drive. I personally everyone does line drives. People are very used to line drives. I personally don't like line drives that much for me, just because when I sell a product, like the whole point is to grow a brand, right? We want to grow a brand. We want to gain that trust. We want to buy new customers, like Tina said. And then I sell out and then I don't know how to order again. Now I have to reorder and it's 20% margin. What do I do? Right. So I prefer volume, because volume, I can go to bed at night knowing that the next day I can always order at that discount. I just have to do a little bit of volume. And then from there, you have to figure out, is the volume gross? Is it 72? Is it 144? Is it 60, 36? Is it 2,000 units? Is it a pallet? What is that? That's going to be a negotiation that the retailer has to do again with the brand. But reorders are dependent on item movement when the brand sets it up as a volume. If the brand sets up their entire promotion as a line drive, then reorders are dependent on a random Gregorian calendar month, which is typically Expo West. You have Expo East, which is no longer Expo East. You know what I mean? And then you have, the two other shows, three other shows throughout the year. And then a lot of people are kind of leapfrogging to that next promotion. So just make sure that's just a lot of different types of promotions that you can work directly with the brand. But the whole point is to make sure, like Chase was saying, make sure that there's at least a healthy margin on an EDLP, or not EDLP volume, just everyday way that you can buy that product. Make sure that that's a healthy margin. And then from there, do those discounts that Chase was talking about, buy one, get one, map off. And that will help grow the brand. And brands really want to partner with stores that follow through with that. And then you sell it out, and then you can buy it again. You don't have to wait till Expo West to buy it again. You can buy it again tomorrow. That's what brands really want. And I think that's kind of the method that we as retailers need to follow as well.
So we're running close to the end of our time, but I wanted to make sure I asked this question. So a lot of retailers are kind of married to their pricing and their promotional calendars, structures, all of that. One of the objections that we hear is, maybe we could switch to MAP on some brands, but our customers have always been used to this. This is how we've always done our discounts. An everyday low price sounds great, but they're used to seeing our signage look a certain way or our discounts look a certain way. How would you encourage retailers to take ownership of those changes, given that they should be a positive for their customers? How do they communicate that in an effective way?
Well, first I want to say Timmy. And Timmy is a fictional character, right? That has a smartphone and that will slowly start showing his or her parents, Timmy, his parents, right? That, they can buy these supplements cheaper somewhere else. So I think it's like a Band-Aid. I mean, it's it's a tough, Band-Aid to rip off right away. But I think over time, it's like an investment. It's taking, 2 steps backward to take 3 steps forward. I think if you want to remain relevant and if you want to, stay on top of mind, I think it's like a transition that you slowly have to move forward with. And customers over time will get used to it. We used to organize our store by brand. And because for us, it was better, because for us, it was easier to order that way, but it was terrible for the customer. Vitamin D was in, 7 different aisles. So it's what's better for the customer at the end of the day. That's how I would look at it.
I was sidetracked there, but I was looking up the exact verbiage on a quote. There's a number of quotes out there, but I'm just blunt with other retailers, and they may like it or not. But honestly, it's one of the quotes that I like is it's Benjamin Franklin. It says, "When you're finished changing, you're finished." So if you're married to your programs, like my BOGO free program that I have right now, I hope I'm not running that in 6 years. That's not good on me. I need to be changing stuff. If you're stopped changing, then you're dead. So, yeah.
And on that note,
that's pretty much that.
Yeah, change or die.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of truth in that. We're messing around, but there's a lot of truth in that because change is inevitable. So one of the things that I talk about is that law of entropy. Like if you stand still, you're actually going backwards because there's constant expansion and change.
Well, I think that right there, what you just said, is our entire industry. Half of our stores are stuck in 2008. Half of ours, I'm not even kidding by half. It probably maybe more. Half are stuck in 2008. They're still doing Super Tuesday. Sorry if that offended half of you. You should be very offended. Change. Get better pricing. Get better marketing.
Well, I mean, that's really part of our mission here, though, is to help people. Because part of it is they're not out and about and in touch with maybe whatever else is happening in the retail world, number one, and number two in this industry. So part of the reason that we're bringing you guys to the table again and again is because
maybe this might be my last time now.
When the complaints start funneling in.
I mean, I think people need to wake up and like, I'll help any retailer. I'll give my phone out to any retailer, but like, we've got to change. You've got to grow with the times. And, you know, we've had 16 years now, or when social media came out, 2000, I don't know. We've had a lot of time. I love this industry more than anything. I want to keep it healthy and surviving. And there's a lot of stores struggling and dying when this is the time when natural product health is the highest it's ever been. And it's only growing and getting higher. But people are turning to TikTok and Amazon and not the neighborhood health food store that's been there for 30 years. And that's a problem.
Yeah. So let's fix it and change together. So awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Always a pleasure. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for listening to the Natural Products Marketer podcast. We hope you found this episode to be super helpful. Make sure you check out the show notes for any of those valuable resources that we mentioned on today's episode.
And before you go, we would love for you to give us a review, follow, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening today. And make sure you join us for our next episode where we give you more marketing tips so that you can reach more people and change more lives.